Although Blowers was most famous for being the first California to produce commercial raisins, he was also a leader in the production and shipping of table grapes, and later in his career, other fruits such as apricots and pears. His work in the packing and shipping of fresh fruit, or green fruit as it was called back then to differentiate it from dried fruit, led to the opening of the New York market for California fruit and the development of the auction system for selling California produce. As he had with the State Board of Viticultural Commissioners in 1880, in the late 1880s, Blowers assumed a leadership position in the California Fruit Union, an industry corporation open to any California fruit grower who purchased stock. When the California Fruit Union failed due to internal divisions, Blowers organized his woodland neighbors who grew fruit, packing and shipping grapes and other fruits from his railroad siding on his farm, and making Woodland a significant exporter of fresh fruit in the 1890s and into the beginning of the 20th century. Typical of his leadership and enterprise, Blowers was the first fruit grower to send fruit by rail out of California. In 1869, immediately following the completion of the Southern Pacific Railroad, Blowers rented a railroad car, filled it with fresh grapes, and shipped it to Chicago. The car was designed for freight, not for fruit, and Blowers had no idea how to ship the fruit or what condition it would be upon the arrival. As an experiment, he shipped samples of all of his varieties in order to see which varieties held up best, and he packed each cluster in a separate paper bag. He then went ahead to Chicago as a passenger to await the arrival and to help sell the produce once it arrived. Most of the grapes didn't arrive in very sound condition, and Blowers lost $1,200 on the transaction, an amount probably equal to $40,000 today. But he learned what varieties could be shipped and how to do better in the future. For most of the 1870s, he sold his green fruit within California to wholesalers in San Francisco and Sacramento, who specialized in upscale imported products for the carriage trade. But he did continue to ship some fruit east to Chicago and Denver. At the end of the 1870s, an increasing number of immigrants came to California and planted vineyards and orchards throughout California. Blowers supplied these newcomers with advice on how to grow fruit and sold them cuttings from his vineyards. He also realized that in a few years the fruit from these new plantings would come to market, increasing supply and probably lowering prices. Sure enough, by 1884, fruit growers were complaining of low prices within California and sought to ship their fruit to the eastern markets. This was easier said than done. To begin with, rail freight rates were very high, over $1,000 a car, which took over half the gross sales receipts from sales of fruit. Secondly, fruit was shipped to agents who were paid a commission on the sales. These agents were paid even if the selling price was low. Third, many growers did not know how to pack and ship fruit, which often arrived spoiled and decayed after a 7-day trip across country. Finally, there was no coordination of shipments. Sometimes a market that could receive and sell 5 or 6 rail cars a day would be swamped with 15 cars, resulting in low prices for all the shippers. In 1885, California fruit growers organized a corporation, the California Fruit Union, to help solve the problems. Blowers was still a viticultural commissioner and so did not assume a leadership position, although he bought stock in the company. 2 years later, Blowers was asked to become a director and the East Coast manager of the union. He resigned from the Viticultural Commission and, as East Coast manager of the Fruit Union, he negotiated much lower shipping rates with the railroads, inaugurated open auctions of all shipments, and appointed agents in each of the major cities. By 1890, the union fell under the control of Porter Brothers, the major fruit shipping company in California, and Blowers left the union. He created a cooperative of growers around Woodland, with fruit packed and shipped from the railroad siding on Blowers Ranch. This allowed Blowers and his neighbors to fill full car loads at least once a week during the growing season. This would not have been possible if each grower had to fill his or her own car. Although best known as a raisin producer, Blowers was clearly both a local and state leader in the development of the fresh fruit industry in California.